Let's talk about a single day in history that changed, well, everything. May 29th, 1453. In just a few hours, an empire that had lasted for over 1,000 years just vanished. And its fall created a shockwave that would completely reshape the world as we know it.
It sounds almost unbelievable, right? How can the fate of just one city actually change the course of human history? But believe me, it did. The fall of Constantinople wasn't just some local event. It was the final, bloody punctuation mark at the end of the Middle Ages and the explosive beginning of something entirely new. So let's get into how it all went down.
Okay, so to really get the sheer scale of this, you have to understand what Constantinople was. For centuries, this wasn't just a city. It was the city, a legendary fortress smack dab at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, and everyone thought it was absolutely impregnable.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 1,123 years. That's how long the Byzantine Empire, with Constantinople as its heart, had survived. You name it. Persians, Arabs, Crusaders, countless armies had thrown themselves against its walls, and for more than 11 centuries, every single one of them had broken and failed.
And here's why. The city's defense was a masterpiece of engineering. First, you had the insane triple-layered walls of Theodosius. We're talking 3 massive stone walls, one after the other, with deep moats in front of them. Then picture this, defensive towers every 50 meters, creating this perfect, deadly kill zone. And the cherry on top? The city's harbor, the Golden Horn, was a brilliant natural shield, blocked off by a gigantic iron chain that no navy could get past. This place was the Fort Knox of the medieval world.
But by 1453, things looked bleak. I mean, the mismatch was staggering. On one side, you have Emperor Constantine XI with maybe 7,000 exhausted soldiers running low on just about everything. And on the other, a young, ambitious Sultan Mehmed II with a massive, high-tech army of up to 80,000 men. This was a true David versus Goliath showdown, and the only thing the defenders had going for them were those legendary walls.
So, who was this guy, this sultan, who had the nerve to challenge the unchallengeable? Well, that brings us to the man who became obsessed with taking the city, Sultan Mehmed II.
You know, when Mehmed came to power at just 19 years old, the leaders in Europe basically laughed him off. They called him the child sultan, thinking he was no threat at all. Oh, how wrong they were. This was no kid. He was a history nerd, totally obsessed with figures like Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. And he believed with every fiber of his being that to have a truly great empire, he had to capture the greatest city in the world, Constantinople.
And his preparation was just genius. He built a massive fortress in just 4 months to completely cut the city off from any help by sea. He gathered a huge, modern fighting force. But his trump card, the real game changer, was a new piece of military hardware, a super cannon. We're talking a monster, nearly 8 meters long, built for one single purpose: to smash those supposedly unbreakable walls into rubble.
So the stage was set. This was it, the ultimate contest. The greatest fortifications ever built by man versus the most powerful artillery the world had ever seen. For 53 straight days, the entire world held its breath.
Starting on April 6th, the ground itself trembled. Day and night, the Ottoman cannons just relentlessly pounded the city. The defenders, you have to give it to them, they fought back with incredible courage. There were epic sea battles, desperate attempts to dig tunnels under the walls. They were constantly trying to patch up the damage. The walls were holding, but just barely.
And then, Mehmed pulled off one of the most audacious moves in military history. Remember that giant chain blocking the harbor? He couldn't break it. So he did the unthinkable. He had his men haul dozens of ships over land, literally dragging them on greased logs up and over a giant hill, and drop them right into the protected harbor. It was an act of pure, unbelievable strategic genius. Finally, on May 29th, Mehmed launched his masterstroke, a brutal 3-wave attack designed to utterly crush the defenders. First, he threw in his irregulars, basically cannon fodder, to wear down the Byzantines. Then came the second wave, more disciplined Anatolian soldiers, to really push the attack. And then, for the final blow, he unleashed his absolute best, the Janissaries, the most elite and feared soldiers in the world.
And right at the critical moment, disaster struck the defenders in 2 ways at once. Their brilliant commander, a Genoese soldier named Giustiniani, the soul of the defense, was badly wounded. When his men saw him carried away, morale just shattered. At that exact same time, somebody, somewhere, made a fatal mistake. A small gate, the Kirkoporta, was left unlocked. The Janissaries found it, and that was it. They poured in, and the 1,000-year defense was over in an instant.
Emperor Constantine XI knew it was over. He reportedly tore off his royal robes and led his last remaining soldiers in a final charge, dying somewhere in the chaos. By the time the sun came up, the Roman Empire, the last living piece of it, was gone. Forever.
So, the city fell. But the story is far from over. In fact, you could say this is where the real story begins. Because the fall of Constantinople set off a chain reaction, a massive domino effect that would be felt across the entire globe.
Think about it. This event was the final nail in the coffin for the Middle Ages. Scholars, fleeing the fallen city with priceless ancient Greek and Roman books, landed in Italy and helped supercharge the Renaissance. The old trade routes to the east were now shut down, controlled by the Ottomans. So, countries like Portugal and Spain had to find a new way to get there, by sea, sparking the Age of Discovery and leading directly to guys like Columbus. The Ottoman Empire was now a certified superpower, and the entire map of the world had to be redrawn.
And on the battlefield, a new truth was carved in stone. The siege proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that giant walls couldn't save you anymore. The era of the medieval castle was officially over. The age of gunpowder and artillery had begun.
So we're left with this incredible question. What if that little gate had stayed locked? What if the cannons hadn't been powerful enough? Just think about how different our world might be today. The Renaissance, the discovery of the Americas, all of it. It's an amazing reminder that sometimes all of history can pivot on a single fateful day.